Hi everyone, I'm Karen Combs and welcome to FLOSSTUBE 28. This is my playlist for FLOSSTUBE. I do have a YouTube channel that has quilting tips and some other things on it, but this is a video about cross stitch and stitching. It is March 6th. It's in the afternoon of Wednesday, and I may try to get this uploaded today. It might be in the morning, but anyway, it is March 6th, and welcome to everyone. One of the things I'm going to talk about just happened here. All right, so we're going to talk about using bobbins, and the sticker just fell off, and that was something we talked about last week, so we'll talk about that in a minute. I've had so many wonderful questions and comments from the last video. Thank you for all of you that commented, and we have a lot of new subscribers, a lot of new viewers. I want to say welcome and thank you for joining us here. I'm not going to get to all the questions today, because there were a lot, but I've written them down. So if you don't hear your question addressed today, we'll do it in another video. So let's do, I'm gonna skip, I've got 2 pages of notes here. I'm gonna skip toward the bottom because one of the questions that I kind of talked about last time was, why do we stitch what we stitch? And a lot of you shared your thoughts about that, and by far, I think the biggest reason people decide to stitch or work on what they're working on is a connection. It could be a memory of something. It could be family related, location related, theme related. A lot of you mentioned that, and I think that's also what I find. I'm discovering things that I like to stitch and other things like I thought I liked to stitch it, but not as much. So I think it's the connection. Some of you like to match a decor or a theme. Some of you worked on whatever you were working on because of a color. You really liked the color palette, and that could go along with the decor. Some of you wanted to try a new technique or try out a new linen and a new floss. So those were all some of the reasons. Some of you mentioned doing a stitch along. So I just found all of that interesting, but by far a connection, some kind of connection. It spoke to you. And I like what Harriet said. Harriet and Kathy both had some good comments. Harriet said that she usually works on whatever is singing the loudest in her stash or in her whip pile. I thought that's nice. And Kathy said she works on whatever's yelling the loudest. And I thought that's great, because isn't it sometimes we think we're going to work on one thing and then all of a sudden something's yelling at us and we work on that. So thank you for your comments on that. I did have a question about the Vicki Clayton silks that I'm working on and tall, and I have them in this little bobbin box, and then I've got the conversion taped up here. These are the ones I'm working on right now, so that's why they're there. But the question was, how do you deal with the bobbin? So I keep them in here until I'm ready to work on it, and what I do, as you can see, I have a little tail sticking out there. My hand is right in the way where I can't see the camera. There we go. So see the little tail? What I do is just pull on it. And you can see there, that's about where I'll cut it off. And then that's where my new threads are. So that's what I do. And then after I cut it off, I just wind everything back up. So I just leave that little tail sticking out so I know where to grab it. So that's what I do on those bobbins. And then by putting them right back in this bobbin container, they're all held in place. So Casey had asked about that, and it was easier to show it than try to describe it. So that was a good question about that. Then I had another question. Why do some people prefer bobbins. And often we just put them in a box. And why do some people prefer the floss drops? Well, I think some of that is personal choice and the project that you're working on. The bobbins, I did have a question or a comment about the stickers. Last video and just now it fell off, and someone commented the older stickers stick better, the newer stickers not as much. So a lot of people just write with a Sharpie right here, the number. So I have some friends that when we get together to stitch, they have all of their bobbins for a project in here, especially if there's a lot of colors. And many of them have always put things on bobbins, and that's what they're used to using. And it works well just to store everything. So that's a personal choice. I do very little of that, and I don't know why. Maybe because I, for myself, find it easier to put them on a floss ring. And I've shown this before. These are the colors for the needlework panel, Fruit Tree and Two Animals by the Scarlet Letter. And this one, I just did a little miniature here and then taped the labels here with the numbers. But the reason that I like it is, first of all, I can see all of them. And did I show this last time? I think I did. How you just take a needle under here and pull each strand. And I did use the winder. But the way I stitch is I'm sitting actually in my sewing room at my sewing table. My sewing machine is right there, and I'm just moved over to the area that has an area to put things. And right below me is a drawer with a knob. So I put my flosses right there on the knob. They just hang and I can just grab them. So for me, I have less table space where I'm working, so this works better. If I had a bigger table area, I might use the bobbins. So that is personal choice, and someone did ask why, and I think it probably goes to the space you have and what you're used to doing. So that was another good question, and that made me think, why do I do what I do? And for me, it's space, and the ring is right there, so it works for me. And if I'm using the silks and the bobbin, the box is small, so fits right there. So that was another excellent question. I'm just looking here because one of the things I'm going to talk about is one of my FFOs, my finally finished. And Maggie had asked, can you do specialty stitches on even weave? Now, we've talked about Ada last week, or last video, and the fact that it's difficult to do specialty stitches on Ada, but you can always adjust that. And I'll show you what I'm working on, and I'll mention that in a moment. But what about specialty stitches on even weave? I don't know why you couldn't, because when you're looking at Ada, and I just have some of my black work here on Ada, but if you look, Ada is, as you know, multiple threads with little holes. Then you go from hole to hole. So it's difficult to do specialty stitches because of all the threads that are together. But even weave are woven threads that cross. I'm just thinking through this. So on a linen, you have things that go this way, and they cross, and you're actually counting the threads. Even weave is similar, it's just a little different product. So there shouldn't be a reason you can't do specialty stitches on even weave. If someone thinks of one, would you put it in the comments? Because I want to share that. But my first thought is you can. You should be able to. And that goes to, Bets had asked a question about why do people prefer, or why do I prefer, smaller counts such as 40? And I do a lot of work on 40. For me, it's the scale. I love the look of stitching on smaller counts. And when I've been at the attic, which I think I've only been able to be there once. Now, I was at Sampler Symposium for a few days, so I made several trips to the attic, but I was only there for one whole visit, multiple trips during that visit. But to see the linen, the original samplers on the small count, it's just breathtaking for me. I love seeing that. I've also seen quite a few samplers at Hobby House, and again, they're done on smaller count. And that, again, is personal choice. I just want to show you a couple of them, because the stitching is beautiful no matter what you work on. And that is, again, I keep saying this, but it is personal choice. You need to work on what you feel comfortable with and what brings you pleasure, what brings you happiness. That's the most important part. So that being said, I just want to show you a couple of things that I've worked on. And I had the cover, and you know, you organize and, okay, well, I don't know where the cover is. This is Harriet Salt. This is on 56 count. And I think it's, I'm gonna check my book to see the width. It is on 56 weeks parchment. And I am using silk, Swasserfine, and 103. The Swasserfine is what most of it's done. It's the lighter red, and it's very fine. And then I'm using the 103 in a darker red to highlight our family's initials. So in the first line, I have my initials in the darker. So it's like, show the sampler already. Here we go. I get where you can see it. This thing's huge. And this is on 56 count. I'm going to just zoom up so you can see. And now I'm going to just bring it back. So it's kind of a light golden linen. It's showing awfully white here. But I love the scale of this, and it takes me about an hour to do a letter. So the big letters. So I just work on this a little bit at a time. It's gonna take me forever. Will I do the whole thing? I don't know. That's another question or another thought. If you're working on something, you can always turn it into something smaller. I might do part of it and turn it into something I put around a spool. I don't know. I might turn it into a drum. I might do the whole thing. So if I find the chart, which is here somewhere, I will hold that up. Oh, let me put this where I could reach it. So that's the smallest I've worked on. I do a lot of 40 count, and I just really like the scale. So I have several things here, but they're underneath. So I'll show that and mention the count as I go along. So when I'm doing the smaller count, one of the hints I can tell you is I have highly powered readers. And I know I had these on one day, and my husband says, why do you have this sticker on your glasses? Well, here's some that, where's my camera? There it is. See, those are some 4. And then here's a 5.5. I have the sticker on there so I know what the power is, and it doesn't bother me when I'm looking through it. I even have a 6. I don't use these very often. But I keep the stickers on, so when I have them in their container or on the table, I know what the count is, because I thought, well, I'll remember the blue ones are a 6. No, I won't. I know I won't. So I just keep the sticker on there. So the higher powered reading glasses has made a big difference when I'm stitching. So that's what I like to use. And I've shared that link on my description before. I just get them at Amazon. Sandy mentioned a couple of hints that are very helpful that I wanted to share. One is, don't leave your needle in the linen. It will make a hole. So a needle minder, you can just pop it on that needle minder and it will hold it with, so don't park your needle in the linen or, well, in the linen, because it will leave a spot. And don't leave your things in the hoop. Or if you're working on a scroll frame, loosen the tension. If you're working on a hoop, when you're finished for the day, take it out, because it will leave a mark and often it's hard to get that out. So I thought that was a good hint. I may have mentioned that in the past, but it's an excellent reminder. So I had one other question about stitching on multiple projects versus working on one, being monogamous. The question was, if you're working on multiple projects, doesn't it prolong the accomplishment and the good feeling that's obtained in the process? And I know what that comment's talking about. So if you have one project that you're working on, you will remember the memories where you were stitching at what was happening, and that is all true. Versus, what if you're working on multiple whips? For me, and again, this is personal choice, sometimes I have worked on one project all the way through. I don't know if you can see it, but behind my shoulder over here is Humming of the Bees. I did that all the way through because I couldn't stop working on it. It just was one of those projects I kept going on. Then other projects I'll work on, and then I want to switch and try either start something new or pull out one of my other projects. And I just go with that. And I think again, it's total personal choice, because some of you love working on one project all the way through, and others of you like to pop around. Just do what you enjoy. That's the bottom line. Okay, I did have Julie ask a question about how to stitch on Lugana, and that I told her in the comments I would look up what video. I talked about how to stitch on linen and Lugana in episode 17. So you can take a look at that. Rather than retape that, I'm just going to point you to 17. And if that's not it, let me know, and I'll have to check my notes, because I think I talked about stitching on linen and how I do it there. Okay, I've got some whips to show you. I've got some FFOs to show you. Just checking all of my notes. We talked about all of those. Okay, so let me show you the FFOs, and this goes along with the question I had about, can you do specialty stitches on Lugana, and do you like to stitch, why do you like to stitch on smaller counts? This I just picked up from the Framers. Winter is Past by Blackbird. And I did this on 28 count Lugana, 1 thread over 1. And the way I did it, I did not, well, there are some specialty stitches. You could just do cross stitch. So if you're an Ada stitcher, there's a heart that has some specialty stitches. You could change that to just cross stitch. And the basket is satin stitch, and because I was doing 1/1, I changed it to cross stitch. So here it is. I just picked it up from the framers. I love how this looks. Look at that frame. Let me get it in. So 1/1. I'm going to zoom up here. The blue heart has some specialty stitches, that little flower basket, and then the big basket I chose to do cross stitch rather than the satin stitches. That 1/1 satin stitches, no, not doing that. So there it is. I love this frame. So that's the first FFO. I have 3 I picked up yesterday. The second one is the Drawn Thread Stars. Now this one does have specialty stitches. So if you're an Ada stitcher, well, you could leave them out and just do something else in there. But I really like the effect of the specialty stitches. This one is done on Stormy Night, and I think I couldn't find my notes. I think it's 36. Let me see if I wrote it down here. Because I finished it last year, so I don't think I transferred it to my new book. No, I didn't, but I believe it's 36. And it has an alphabet at the top, or you can do an alternate verse. I did the alternate verse. And I'll show it to you, and then I'll read what it says. I love how the frame turned out on this. And let me zoom up there so you can see. I love the little houses. Oh, look at that little village. This is done in Dinky Dye silk. I think I used the called for. And the verse says, now, you could have alphabet at the top. I did the alternate verse. It says, age is opportunity no less than youth itself. Those in another dress. As the evening twilight fades away, the sky is filled with stars invisible by day. So that is what I chose to do there. Called for Dinky Dye. Yes, it's all Dinky Dye, and I did do the Stormy Night. And it's called for 32 count. I might have done 32. Yes, I think I did, because I was surprised I could do 1 strand of the Dinky Dye on 32, but that silk is a little thicker, so I didn't have to do 2 strands. So that's an FFO, and then I have one more, and this is for the Great British Sampler Retreat at Hobby House this fall. Nicholas sent us 2 charts with no colors. We had to pick our own. And so this one I did on 46 count baby sheep. And I can't remember the silks I used. I think one's a Gloriana. So I love how this turned out too. So I'm just gonna come up there. And I chose kind of a vintage looking frame for that one. Oh, that's pretty. I do like how that looks. And the linen on that was XJU baby sheep. All right, so what have I been working on? And then I'll show you a little bit of haul. Not much, especially since we were in Florida. And I was gifted several things by someone that was moving, and she brought a bunch of things in. And so I picked up quite a few things there. I know I had a question, and I bet I didn't write down who it was from. I did not, but I decided to pull the information. The question was, as a new stitcher, how do you pick what to start with? That's a tough question. I can tell you what I did, is I started back after many decades, just a couple years ago. Started, if you watch my first Flosstube, I will talk about how I started at 16 taking correspondence courses from the Nantucket School of Needlework and stitched, and then went into my quilting career and only returned back to stitching in the last, I think it's 2 years ago now, might be March, just 2 years ago, and just have loved every second of it, returning back to stitching after a while. But what I did is I went on 1, 2, 3 stitch, because I hadn't even discovered Flosstube when I returned to stitching. And I went through some of the charts, and the very first one I started with was Plum Street, Flag Flock. I had not stitched on linen. You saw the black work I did on Ada. I did several samplers on that, but I wanted to do cross stitch on linen. So I started with Flag Flock, and I was scared to do 40 count. So I did 36 count Vintage Country Mocha with the called for DMC. I think it's a combination of DMC and hand dyed, and I might have had to substitute some colors because when I purchased these, supplies were really rough to get. Now, I didn't even press this. I just grabbed it at the last minute, so I apologize. It's kind of folded funny, but there it is. I'm working on that. I started that, and I thought, I can do this linen. I hadn't discovered the higher power readers yet, and once I discovered those, then I could go crazy. And while I was working on Flag Flock, I discovered the series Hawk Run Hollow, right into it. And so I ordered Houses of Hawk Run Hollow and the DMC, and this is on, I believe it's 36 count. Yeah, no, 40 count platinum. Now, Flag Flock has no specialty stitches. I did that, I'm working on that 1/2. And this Houses of Hawk Run Hollow has no specialty stitches. I'm doing this on 40 count, 1 thread over 2. There's my needle minder. We talked about not parking your needle in the linen, so it's right there, but here it is. I've got 3 sections done, working on the 4th, and I did change the color of the steps in the 4th house because I wanted it to show up a little more. I think that's, yeah, I'm changing. I'm just working on it, but I did change the color there. So that's where I started. I'm curious, those of you that are watching, tell me if you've recently started cross-stitching or have returned to it, and a lot of people have returned to cross-stitch that did it in the 80s. And of course now it's all new. We have specialty specialty linens, hand-dyed linen, hand-dyed floss, we have silk, we have so many things. But what did you start on? Put that in the comments. What, if you remember, what was your first chart that you started when you returned back? So I did, oh, there's Harriet Salt. I know I laid her out. So she's big. I just have, I just have the very top part done. So I'm just going to keep going on it. It's so pretty. But I don't even think about how long it's going to take, because it's going to take as long as it takes. So I've got 2 things I was working on, and I think I'm going to show you Should I show you my little bit of haul first and then show you what I'm working on? No, let me show you what I'm working on. So I've continued to work on Shores of Hawkwood Hollow. There it is, and that's what it's going to look like. I am using the DMC for my colors, and I am using, I think it's Lakeside. I looked all this up before we started, and of course then I forgot. It is on 40 count Lakeside Sand Dune, which I had that in my stash. And it's got about 31 colors. So here are all the colors. And I've almost finished the first block. I just have the birds to finish. There it is. Look at the little needle mounder that I found. Don't know where it came from. I was just digging around in my stuff and remembered I had it. I did also finish stitching the boxes. And you remember last time I shared a hint that what I do is one arm of the cross, and then every 10 I do a full cross so it's easier to count. So there it is. And I did change the color of the sun. I did get that question. Do you change colors often? Sometimes. I wanted on that one, you can see how the chart has a lighter sun. I wanted a darker sun. So it used both of those colors, and I just decided to use that darker color. Now, that does mean I need to change the lips because they kind of disappear. So I'm still trying to figure out. I have an idea how I might fix that rather than take it out. I'm going to try it, and then I'll share it next time. But all I have left are the birds. And then I think I'm going to move straight down to the next one because I want to do that house. So I did outline those already. So I worked quite a bit on that. And then the other one I worked on, everything's here. Where did it go? Here it is. It's right in front of me. And Tall Ufendel. And this was a chart that I was gifted, someone that was moving and cleaning out some of her supplies that she didn't want to take with her to move. This I selected from the things she was giving away, and I did give her money for this. So I said it was gifted, so kind of gifted, but I did give her some money because she had a lot of charts she was giving away, and I think anyone that took things that she was giving away gave her money, even though she didn't want to take it. I just thought, no way am I going to take this and not give her something. But this one is, I love it. I love it. It's on 40 count Sleeping Bear Linen by Needle and Flax, and I'm using the Vicki Clayton silk 1 strand over 2. So here they are. You saw that a little earlier. There are some specialty stitches in it, and I'll talk about in a minute how what we can do about that if you're an Ada stitcher. But I got the border all done, and I'm working on, I should say outlined, working on, oh, I have to really back up. I can't see what you're seeing. There we go. So now I started at the top, finished all around the border. Now I'm working on the top again. And I started on the right corner. Remember Jean Lee of the Attic mentioning that Darlene Osteen shared that in a class with her, and that's what she does. And I tried it, and I like it. So I'm right-handed, so starting in the right corner, works well for me. Now, the question about what if you are an Ada stitcher and are there specialty stitches in this? There are some 1/1 right here. What you could do if you don't want to do the 1/1 is add some more of those little stars in there, or take one of the flower motifs and put in there. There is some 1/1 verse, but you could just do part of the verse and do it larger. You could do this in cross stitch. You could take just part of it, say just this part, and do a drum. So there are ways to adapt. And if you want to do the sampler exactly as charted, then don't adapt. But you can adapt if you choose to. So it would be an adaptation of that sampler. That's something that if you're doing an actual reproduction, you need to follow it, but you can do an adaptation. So again, that's personal choice. I want to share what I really love about this sampler. When I was designing quilts, a lot of times I would work in light, medium, and dark to get a certain sparkle in the quilt design, or if I was working at an optical illusion to get the shading. And this chart has light, medium, and dark in the motifs. Let me show you. Look at the tree. There are light, medium, and dark, and look how it shades down and creates almost a secondary pattern. Actually, all three trees have shading. And then look at the colors. Look at that one. Look at the colors in this sampler. They are stunning. Some of them, as I pull them, I think, I don't know if that's going to work. But it really does look beautiful. Now, I did just a little touch-up press on this. And when I was watching Brenda and Laura this last Sunday afternoon, Brenda mentioned something about she had ironed some things she was finished with. But she mentioned she didn't like to iron when she's working on it, and because it might shrink it. And I thought, if I'm ironing every time I show you my progress on a floss tube, that could really tighten it up. And if I'm using really small linen, could be an issue. So I kind of did a little touch up, but not a lot. So I thought that's something I'm going to have to kind of ponder about that. But I thought that was a good point. So anyway, this is Anne Tall Uffendell. Worked on her quite a bit, and I'm really enjoying her. So I'll probably just keep going. Usually I just work until I start to feel like I'm getting a little bored, and then I switch. So on that one, I'm not bored at all with it, so I'm going to keep going. Now, we did have a meeting last night of the Tudor Rose Guild. I've talked about that, Tudor Rose Sampler Guild. And we had Robin of Samplered Stitchery did a class for us. We could order the pattern or the chart and gather all our supplies ourselves, or we could order the kit. So I ordered the kit and did all the pre-work. And then last night, Robin showed us how to put together the little tomato, and this is the tomato scissor fob. She also showed us how to put the pillow together and the beads. So there it is. And this is the first time I've ever done anything like this. Let me see if I can hold it up. I might have to just use my notepad here so I can hold it up. Okay, is that distracting? Hopefully not. So there it is, and it's not perfect, but I'm very happy with it because I've never done one before. So I've got my initials, the year, and the little scissor, or little tomato there, and little tomato there, and there it is, and it's a scissor fob. So here I have it on some scissors. And these scissors, I had a question about this. These are Ernest Wright. They're on Instagram. These are handmade in England. And here are the scissors. They are beautiful. Sometimes they're in stock, sometimes you have to wait. I love these scissors. So finished that last night. Worked on the little pillow stitching a couple weeks ago, right after the floss tube, and then put it all together last night. Didn't get it all quite done during the meeting. I had to work for about 20 minutes after the meeting and finish. So finished that. I guess that's another FFO. And I showed you last week a SAL that's coming up January 1st. I didn't write down who's doing it. I'll have to look that up. I vaguely remember. I should have looked that up, but I did not. But this one I'm planning on starting June 1st. So you can you can go on Instagram and just type in GH1857 SAL and it'll come up. And of course, some people have started already. I'm working on Antal, so I don't want to start yet, but I love all of the projects. And look at all the projects you get along with the sampler. And the colors, the blue and the brown and the gold, that's an unusual color. At least I don't see it very often, but I have the silk pack all ready to go into the box. So I haven't picked linen yet, and I don't even know what it calls for. I'll lay the silks on the linen and see. I'm just gonna see if it says it. Weeks. What color? I don't know. No, it's Fiber on a Whim, 32 count wheat by Fiber on a Whim, or Belfast Vintage Mocha, so Vintage Country Mocha. I'm going to do it on a higher count than 32. It's a pretty big one. It doesn't look that big. It's 103 by 294. Yikes. Okay, there, I can show that. Boy, that's pretty though. So I'll be doing it on something larger count, smaller count, higher number. Anyway, so that'll be starting in January. So if you want to join me and everyone else, I forgot to mention the Shores of Hawk Run Hollow. The Disorderly Stitcher is doing a SAL for that. I haven't popped in. I think they have a Facebook group. I haven't popped in and looked on that, but I'll have to do that. And I haven't posted any of my progress yet. I thought I'd do that after we did the floss tube. I only have a couple of things that I purchased. I've pre-ordered some things from Market, but they're not in yet. So I got the newest Fox and Rabbit Club from Guy Round Stitchery. So this is very Halloweenish. So I'll have to kind of think what I might put on that. It's called All Hallows. It's really quite pretty. And then I did order a bag from Patchwork Pawprint, who Val now has a new website. I think it's Patchwork Pawprint. And I love this bag. It's done with Saju fabric. It's got 2 zippers. It's got a cute little button. Look at the little button. And the 2 zippers. Look at that. Isn't that cute? And then it's got this fabric on the back. So I did order that. And then I was watching Katie Strachan, and she mentioned 2 books. So I went ahead and got that. This is Reversible Cross Stitch Sampler by Needle Made Design. So it basically talks about when you do reversible cross stitch, just the mechanics of it. And reversible cross stitch means it looks the same on the front as the back. So there is a process so you can stitch it like that. And I have two things that I have worked on so far that are reversible. This is Dorcas Hayes, which I'll show you that in a minute because that goes on with the second book I bought. This is the other one I'm working on. This is Laura Standish. You have to excuse the threads. They're all ready for the next band. But here's my Laura Standish. And what am I? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 5 bands done. So I think the next one is this one again, the pink and the blue. And I've done most of it in reverse. One section I did not, but the rest I did. So that's in reverse. It means that's the back. It looks just like the front. So I thought that book would be a good addition because it talks about the mechanics of that. And then this is the other one I'm working on that's, is it in reverse? I don't think so. Part of it is. This is Dorcas Hayes. I haven't returned back to this. This is the front. Need to work on that. Here's the back. So almost, not quite. But this book called Sampled Lives, Samplers from the Fitzwilliam Museum by Carol Humphrey is available. I ordered it and had it within a week. Might have been even less than a week. It is Curating Cambridge. You can Google that. This is the name of it. I'll put this in the description, and anything that I talk about that has a link, I will put that in the description. But this is it's just amazing. It talks about the samplers in their collection, and it does talk about Dorcas Hayes. I just glanced at it. I mean, look how thick it is. Here it is. Here's Dorcas Hayes sampler. And I've talked about her in some of my earlier videos, a few videos ago. And the other thing I got from the museum, since I thought, well, I'm paying shipping, I'll add this in. This is a tea towel of Dorcas. And I'm not going to unwrap the whole thing yet, but look at the detail. I thought I might use that and make a project bag. Or I might just have it so I can actually look at the colors and the stitches. I've been going to the museum's website where you can zoom right up on it, so I could continue doing that as well. So those are just the few little books, couple books, and a project bag in my linen club. That's what I've received so far. I've ordered a few things from Market, pre-ordered. I didn't order as much as I would like to. I've just made notes of what I would like and order later. Just ordered a couple things. So let me just check. I think we're done. I've got questions next time that I didn't get to. So we'll talk about those next time. And I know what I was going to talk about. And where is it? So on my last video, I called this a scary new start. And I put scary in parentheses. And part of me felt a little bad that I called it scary because that's kind of a negative thing, but that's why I put it in quotations, because why was I scared to start it? I don't know. I think because it's a sampler that's large. I don't know. That might be why. And I had to talk to myself because I really wanted to start it. I'm loving it. And I think that goes to, someone mentioned they were glad I had the courage to start it. And I think that's an interesting comment, because often don't we put limitations on ourselves? We don't start something because we're concerned or scared or not sure if we can do it. And I was surprised at just stitching this, how much fun it is. And I thought, I am so glad that I didn't talk myself out of it. And I think that's what it is. We talk ourselves out of things. If I had started it and then decided I didn't want to work on it anymore, I could have always turned it into the section I had done into a little pillow or something like that. I mean, that's something I just wanted to mention, because I think we put ourselves, at least I do this sometimes, I talk myself out of things, and I shouldn't do that. Give it a try. You might be shocked that it's like, wow, not only is this fun, I'm doing it. And, you know, when we look at this, I did do the over one, which I was surprised how much fun I had doing it. I think last time I said, what's wrong with me? But look at, it's just X's. It's just X's. Now I did do continental or tent stitch on the 1 over 1, which means I just did one arm of the cross. I don't know if I can get close. But I did want to mention that because I felt kind of bad. I thought, no, I shouldn't put something negative, because I don't want anyone ever to be talked out of doing something they really want to do. So my urging is to you, just start it. If you're not sure if you can do it, just start it. Because, let me show you, on Dorcas Hayes, I am working on the queen stitch. I don't like how it looks. I've only got a tiny bit done. So I'm going to take that little bit out and I'm going to wait, and then I'm going to try it again, because it's just like I tell people in my quilt classes, your technique and your skill level improves. The more you do something, the more it improves, and you might not even realize it. And then one day you pull something out that you haven't touched in a while because it was too hard, or you couldn't understand it, or wasn't sure where it was going, and it wasn't right. You know, lots of reasons why we stop working on something. You pull it out, you start working on it, and you think, wow, I can do this. So that's what I'm doing on this. I'm happy with how my other stitches look. I'm getting a little bit more satisfied with my satin stitch, but the queen stitch I'm not happy with yet, and that will come with practice. So just that little bit right there I'm going to take out, and I think I already know how I'm going to do it. But I am taking a class with Nicola in May, so any of you that are going to Queen City, Sampler Guild, that particular sampler we're doing does have queen stitch. So I thought I'm going to wait and practice and then come back to it. So just wanted to mention that often our skill level increases and we don't even know it. So if there's something you set back or something you haven't tried recently and you think, is it too hard? Give it a go. You might be pleasantly surprised. And if not, just set it back and try it again later. So that's my little positive urging for today. And I think I'm all set. This last one I did, it was like midnight when I finished out. This one's in the middle of the day, so not quite so late. But I want to thank you all for joining me. leave any questions or comments in the comment box, and I will put different links in the descriptions. Any of my videos, check the description, because often I have links to what I talked about there. So I think that's it. I'll be back in, I think 2 weeks, maybe 3. Yeah, that workshop's in May. I can't remember what's going on in a couple of weeks, but I had intended on doing 3 weeks between the 2 videos, but then I was getting things kind of around, and I thought, no, I think I'll tape the video today instead of waiting. So the next video, I'll have some of the market things that I purchased, that I pre-ordered. Because I was going to wait, and I thought, no, just go ahead and do this video, and then we'll do the next one. So now I'm rambling, so I'm going to stop. And I want to wish you all happy stitching. Thank you for joining me. And until next time, happy stitching. Bye, everyone.